Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining me today. It's Allan Laboucan with the Rocks and Stocks News website. One of our sponsor companies, Sokoman Minerals, they came out with a very good news release this morning, and I've got Tim on the horn to talk about it. Tim, thank you very much for joining us today.
Always a pleasure, Allan. Thank you for having me again.
Well, it's a pleasure to see these kind of results. Highlight holes included 2.35 meters of 25 grams, starting at only 72 meters down hole, 4.29 meters of 14.56 grams of gold, 1.4 meters of 133 grams of gold, and 1 meter of 95 grams. So definitely some great looking results there from Moosehead, Tim.
Well, you know what? It's finally, again, and I've talked about this before. The knock on Moosehead was always continuity and being able to string things together. Well, I think with our approach, with the conservatively spaced, drill holes, and obviously the barge-based program. We know there's a lot of low-hanging fruit there just below surface. In fact, I think one of our intersections that you just mentioned started at 11 meters down the hole. So I mean, this stuff comes right to surface, and just unfortunately, there's a little bit of overburden and maybe a little bit of water sitting on top of it. But yeah, I mean, I think we're getting, as I mentioned in our previous chats, Allan, a little better at modeling these things, and obviously the drill spacing helps, but it's also important to maintain contact with those high grade chutes, because they can be elusive, they can be hard to find, and they can suddenly take a jog, east west, north south, go flat, go more vertical. So you need to maintain that program. But yeah, it's nice to get the rewards in the actual assays itself, and we had a couple of maps as well in that, and we'll get into those in a second. But we're now also starting. We don't have any assays for hole 418, which was one of the holes we highlighted in the body of the news release. Finally stepping out in terms of getting outside of the main mineralized trends, and the deepest intersection of visible gold cut to date at 352 meters down the hole, or just a tick over 300 meters down plunge, which is, I think, about 50 meters deeper than the nearest high grade hit, which I think was hole 193, which gave us between 3 and 4 meters, I think, of about 11 grams. So again, really good consistency in the grades and things, and always comforting to see, of course, those higher numbers poke their heads in from time to time. As you mentioned, that 1.4 meters of 133 was certainly pretty looking rock, and always nice to see that stuff when it comes out of the core tube. So yeah, I'm really happy with the news release, Allan.
Well, something stood out to me, Tim, about that deeper hole was that it's close to that Valentine Lake corridor, right?
We're getting down, yes. Now, if we look at it in terms of where we sit in relation to the actual eastern trend connecting with the main Valentine Lake shear zone, it's still a long ways, and we're talking hundreds of meters, most likely. We're still awaiting the final modeling from our CSAMT survey, which was designed just to do that we completed around Christmas time, or just around Christmas time last Christmas. Unfortunately, the contractor is still having some leveling issues with the upper 300 to 400 meters of that data, so we aren't able to see. We can't compare what we got to what we're hoping to see lower than that yet at this point. They're still working on it. Hopefully it'll get resolved without having to either go back and resurvey, but if we have to, obviously we will, because we have invested well over $100,000 in that survey, and we certainly want it to be of value and of use to us. But anyway, yeah, so to your point, could it go down that deep? It could, but again, like I said, we're trying to build this thing in a regimented fashion, getting the best information we can, and obviously the best information is always the drill hole. Geophysics can lead you astray from time to time, as I'm sure you found out in your past, and certainly my past. Drilling geophysical targets on their own can be a bit risky and disappointing. So
Yes.
nothing like core in the hand. So we're going to stick to our plan and do this right. We may start to get a little more aggressive in terms of step outs. I mean, we are now less than 50,000 meters from finishing our 100,000 meter program, and our mission now is obviously to make this thing as big as we can with the meterages we have left. We still have several hundred drill holes to go, but like I said, we have a plan and we're going to stick to it. It's working for us right now, and I don't see any reason to change that. I know I always get calls and emails from shareholders, when are you going to wing one down 800 meters and all this sort of stuff. Well, I'm going to wing one down 800 meters after I cut VG at 750 meters. So
And
and
600.
right now we're still getting what I call some pretty decent results, and obviously a smattering of nice high grade thrown in there. So I don't see any reason to alter the plan tremendously at this point.
Well, that's what excites me about this project, and always has, is orogenic systems where you got these big cracks in the earth that allow those fluids to come up, and with high grade gold in them. You've got that big shear structure, and then looks like some secondary structures off of it, which is really important because that's often where you find these kind of deposits. And but chasing them, you're looking at high grade gold, and high grade gold can be challenging. But when you've got it in the truth machine, that's very exciting. And so a couple of things that I'm interested in is the drilling to catch the extension. Is that starting to give you comfort that you're understanding how this reacts at depth? And, are you going to systematically move deeper?
Yeah, well, exactly. That's the plan. Right now, the two land-based drills, which is where the hole I spoke of, hole 418, that cut the deepest VG yet. It was, I think we counted 9 specks. There could be more when we actually cut the core open and sample it. But the goal is to basically drill a fan of holes continually deeper. So what we're going to do now below 418 is to obviously set the drill up in the same location and just drill a steeper hole and undercut it another 25 or 50 meters below that. So just keep building it that way, building it out in a responsible fashion. So maybe it's time to
put your so we can get a grasp of how this is all coming together, connecting of the dots, if you will. Share your screen there, Tim, and I think it'll help others figure things out better.
Well, this is a shot of, say, the southern half of our property here, featuring a couple of different types of data. Obviously, the background map is our HeliMag that we flew a couple of years ago. Really beautiful in terms of the detail, and I'm not a geophysicist, so I can be dangerous when I'm using geophysics as a talking tool. But to me, there seems to be lots of breaks. If you look at, say, this, I hope you can see my cursor. Anyway, yes. You can see this fairly strong mag just kind of petering out here. It gets a little weaker, and you can see it pick up here. These are the areas. See these little gaps in here where it's really flat and things like that. These are areas where the rock has been altered. I mean, the magnetic properties of what was there originally has been altered, most likely by hydrothermal fluids. And these are areas where you look to go for gold, for cross-cutting veins and things. And you did mention the main Valentine shear, and this is largely it's not a straight line like this, and nor is it a thin line like this. I mean, this is probably just what we think is the central part of the Valentine Lake shear. It's obviously a much wider structure than that, but just for clarity, we show it as a line. And here it is here entering our property from the southwest, and you can see that there are some definite linear features that at
And not
parallel.
only do I see that, Tim, but I also see some what looks like cross-cutting structures that are quite interesting in that where you're hitting the gold.
Oh, absolutely. Like we definitely see disruptions through here where we actually have a very high, and this is another aspect of this press release this morning too, Alan, is that we also did offensive holes across, we figured where the structure cut through and basically just drilled a fence across it just to see if we could, obviously find the structure. And indeed we did. In fact, we hit it in multiple holes. So like I said, it's not just a straight line. It's obviously a zone with anastomosing, like braided hair sort of thing, cutting and cross cutting and all that sort of stuff. So, which was not surprising, but it was nice to see. Excuse me, my COVID is still not gone. I think all of the holes actually hit anomalous gold mineralization. When I say anomalous, I'm talking like anywhere from a couple of hundred ppb up to over 2 grams over a meter. I think the best we reported from hole 379 was about 5 meters of 3/4 of a gram, including a couple of meters of I think 1.2 grams. So there's gold here, and I think that's the key feat. This fault is greased, and it's also juiced with gold. In fact, I will have a little comment about our neighbor to the south, K9 Gold, who a few months ago put out some interesting news on drilling. Very close to our southern boundary that intersected some broad intervals of low-grade gold. I think they had 40-50 meters of around a gram. Within that, there was variably, differing thicknesses of material anywhere from 1 up to 3 grams. So again, in this same area, basically on this same structure. So gold down here, there's gold here, gold here. So it just goes to speak of the prospectivity of the remainder of this structure on our property. So what we need to find now, I think, if we're looking for more moose heads, is where splays off of. So here's the main structure. So the main eastern trend would actually be a splay off of that. And as you correctly pointed out earlier in your introduction, it's often not the main fault that you want to be on. Like in Timmins, the Destra Porcupine, most of the best gold and continuing
Are just off of the main structure.
Are splays off of the main Destra fault, and we could be looking at a very similar sort of situation here. And at the at Moosehead, certainly it's not directly on the main Valentine shear. It's actually on a splay and a series of splays off of that. So now we need to come down here and basically poke around. We will be down here again. We will be continuing with drilling, and even down closer to our boundary. You see this probably this is a mafic body here. You see this mag high. It's all chopped to pieces. I mean, there's you can see there's breaks and obviously some very sharp contacts here, suggesting that there is indeed some structures down here. And of course, with gold in.
Well, actually, if you kind of follow that low mag or that mag high to the bottom there, it looks like there's a structure going right towards MH22 the letter M in 22-386.
Yes. Oh, exactly. Yeah. So again, and we'll be down here. We're not done with this. We basically verified our suspicions and obviously helped nail down the higher grade portion of this fault. But like I said, it's probably not right on this fault you want to be. So we probably need now to look a little further down this way or even up this way, maybe closer to where holes 362 and 367 are again. And now these holes down here are in the volcanics, very similar to the K9 stuff, which is different than Moosehead, which sits in the sedimentary sequences. Now, whether that has anything to do with controlling better grades or not, time will tell. But what's also of note here is this red dot right here, this previously released hole 21-344.
9 grams, over a half a meter.
Yep. So there is high grade. So you can get higher grades, not just 1 or 2 or 3 grams, but you can get up to 9 and 10 grams along this structure. So again, more work to be done down here. So
getting back to the eastern trend there, where you're following it, and you see there's actually looks like there's a secondary structure that kind of creates a fork in the road. As you go a little bit further, you've got kind of a strong high, then it gets lower, and then there's 3 blue dots, and that's sitting right on another high. How are these all fitting together, Tim, into your thinking?
Am I circling the area you're talking
No,
about?
no, follow it to the southeast, or southwest, sorry.
Yes, this way.
Go from your red dot, then you got a green dot, and then there's a mag high that goes to the southeast, or southwest, sorry.
Okay, am I near the area?
No, a little bit further up. Yeah, a little more up. There you go. Those 3 dots there.
Yeah. Well, actually, it's funny because the the eastern trend sits largely here. The western trend sits approximately here. So, and if you look, you can actually see there's disruptions.
Yes.
There's one through here. Now there's a stronger one through here, and we strongly feel, and as well, some of our highest gold grain counts are flanking this structure. So these are obviously good support for the eastern trend continuing. Now there was some historic drilling up here. In fact, it did get a little bit of VG, and early on, I think in 2019, we did poke a couple of holes up here. There's also a large cluster of angular float that returned over 100 grams, I think, in a couple of samples up here historically. And we did follow up with a couple of holes in this area and did cut gold, but just a couple of small specks in narrower veins. So the results were not, outstanding or typical of what we would get, say, in the eastern trend or the footwall splay now. But we kind of walked away from that at the time, just to go back and focus, obviously, on this area here. So we haven't forgotten about this area, and you can clearly see this nice, beautiful high mag just sort of ends right here.
Yeah, exactly.
So this is probably the alteration halo, if you will, around this. If you just
yeah, you can see it in the mag.
Just up through there. So we'll be back here at some point, Allan. But like I said, right now, I want to get another 10,000 meters or so into extending the eastern trend to depth and to the north, and as well as completely marrying the 75 zone with what looks to be its sister to the north, the footwall splay. So we'll just leave this map here now for a little bit and go back to.
As I was looking at that map, and then knowing about the gold distribution, that you got a lot of work ahead of you, Tim, and it looks like you've got a very big mineralizing system there that, you could have more than one swan zone in there, like Fosterville.
Keep talking, Barry. I like the way you talk. Anyway, so this is one of the other images we had in our press release this morning, just to give people hopefully a better understanding of what we're talking about. This is some of our first attempts at trying to model this stuff. Now it's only this eastern trend here, the main eastern trend that's been modeled with grade. We haven't attempted to do that yet for here or here, as you see. But what's important here is that these are some of the holes we're reporting in this press release, and obviously with some pretty decent grades. So now the gap is basically down to like 50 meters. So essentially it's been closed. We may try and get another fence or so in here just to nail it down, but it's pretty obvious that this joins that now, I think, and that the 75 zone definitely looks to be more of a southern extension of the footwall splay, which would be behind this. So that's why it kind of looks like this is coming down this way and this is kind of going that way. If you look at that as an apparent sort of change in orientation, there is a change in orientation as well that we see. So we're now pretty confident that the 75 zone is probably the southern extension of the footwall splay, and that both are splay off of the main eastern trend, which is this thing here. But just to the real gem in this news release for me was the deepest VG in hole 418 here, which sits completely outside of anything we've drilled before, and basically starts paving the way for obviously this thing extending, who knows, and hopefully a long ways down plunge. With now we don't have assays yet, and with 9 specks of visible gold, we're probably not going to get 500 grams per ton out of that. But if we can get 10, 20 grams, I'd be very happy with that. At those, especially still fairly shallow, I mean, down, 300 meters down dip, 10, 20 grams should be looked at very favorably, I think. Now, I'm not discounting we couldn't get higher than that, but typically, when we get 300-400 grams in an assay, we tend to see more specks of VG, but it doesn't mean that they aren't there or that we won't get it in the assay.
Because you're only seeing what's on the outside of the core.
That's right. Yes, and we are, like I said, all of this will be done for metallic. So any gold that's not visible at the surface in the half that we do send in will be captured. So yeah, I mean, we'll get a very good idea as to what's in that section. Plus, the area that this intersection was in, down around 350 meters down the hole, also had other veins that didn't have any VG in it, but did have all the other metals that we look for when we get to high grade, including belangerite, the sphalerite, pyrite, bits of arsenopyrite. So I at this point, I can't predict what the intersection in 418 will be, but it's nice to know that there's some visible gold down there that will help.
Yeah, in reality, Tim, knowing that there's visible gold down there opens things up quite significantly, at depth and along strike.
Yep. Oh, definitely. So right now we got one rig basically just blasting holes down in this area here. We're going to have another rig moving. Basically, it just finished a hole in this gap here, and we'll move over and test, obviously to the north. And of course, this is at depth. This is down, below 250 meters, 300 meters vertically. We still have Mr. Barge up here, obviously, just charging ahead and testing all this open stuff. And as you remember from the earlier slide I showed, that mag anomaly tends to swing up this way and go through here. So eventually we'll chase this thing, hopefully right to shore and beyond. So
well, even where it gets a little less of a high, that's definitely potential as well, because you could get that alteration in there that's affecting your mag.
Absolutely. And one thing I do want to mention and bring to your attention here as well is that, and I know you can draw lines on maps, all day long and try and make a story on it. But to me, it definitely seems like there's some sort of a north plunging sort of.
And you can see that in the mag, actually.
And yeah, so, and this is, of course, completely wide open. So this is why we're going to be focusing the next series of holes, fences of holes, basically. Bing, 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 sort of like that in this area, because it does look like there's a plunge. And even though this area hasn't been modeled yet, these are all high grade holes. And if you do this here with this, you can see there's another one here.
Yeah, it looks like a parallel secondary faulting.
Yeah, main one here. And maybe this one is the way it is just because there's probably, obviously these blank areas here, there's no drilling here. So you might want to poke a hole in there. But anyway, at some point, but we're going to try and get away from obviously infilling and just go to expansion mode right now. I mean, we just got to make this thing as big as we can. And 418 was a real shot in the arm. In fact, this hole only finished drilling yesterday, so it was a last-minute addition to the news release. And I think
don't blame you. Tim is over on that. I can't get away from that eastern trend. Is 344, 362, and 367, are those all pending?
No, actually, these two are actually reported in this news release.
And
And 344 is that hole I mentioned to you on the other slide, where it had half a meter of 10 grams at 250 meters, sorry, down the hole. There's virtually no drilling in here, and that's about 250 meters. So, like I said, there's all kinds of room here to make these things, and the South Pond zone could be dipping down this direction as well. So, there's just we have.
or you could be following that mag anomaly that is trending towards the south and west there.
Yes. Now the main Valentine shear will be kind of off the page here.
Yeah.
Obviously, we wanted to zoom this in just to show the detail, but yeah. So the eastern trend will be this way, and again, you see in here that there's no drilling in here, so it's open for it's still open in all directions.
It just keeps standing out to me, Tim, the widespread spread high-grade gold mineralization suggestive of a big mineralizing system.
Well, the other thing is too, I mean, historically, and I don't know, maybe this is a cliche, but every gold mine has its little jewelry box, as they call it. An area where there's a sweet spot in there you can go in, and if the grade starts to get a bit low in the area you're mining, you make a little trip over to stope number one and claw down 100 tons of ounce material to boost your grade, sort of thing. There's high grade in every single zone we've drilled on this property. It's not just in one little spot. The western trend, the 75 zone, South Pond, eastern trend, footwall splay, all have multi-ounce intersections in them. So it's not like we're just pulling a hole every now and then from that one area. All of these zones have high grade in them, which speaks tremendously of I think the quality of the grade here. So yeah.
Well, that brings up another point. I've said long time ago that if you guys start figuring out this whole mineralizing system, it's not going to be difficult to start adding up a lot of ounces. And you're still figuring this out. You're starting to see some structural trends there, some secondary structural trends, widespread gold mineralization at surface with the potential to go much deeper. And I'm really looking forward to the day that you can start to really figure out this whole mineralizing system and really start to hang things together and get your predictability up. And this is a tremendously exciting project.
Well, you and I want to thank you for mentioning that because you can go into the heart of a gold mine anywhere in the world and pick up a piece of rock and it won't have any gold in it. So you mentioned you're always learning, and that's one thing for sure in this business, especially at this stage where it's basically just all surface drilling. I mean, we're not underground here drilling off any detailed zones for mining or anything here yet. So and we do get surprises still. We do get disappointments, and that will happen. Not every piece of rock inside a gold mine is mineralized. There are defined areas, and sometimes they're shoots.
Well, especially in a Fosterville Swan Zone orogenic system, you're actually looking for jewelry boxes to make a mine. And the reason they're called jewelry boxes is because they're not big, but they're super high grade. So before you go looking for all those jewelry boxes, you got to try to figure out how the geophysical data and the structural and the drilling puts it all together, because you don't want to go banging big holes in there and without having a good predictability of where the jewelry boxes would be.
Yeah. So again, the reason why we're not going to stray from the path when we get one or two misses. These things are to be expected, and you just continue with your plan. You just stay focused, and it's working for us. So yeah.
Well, you can see it in all your hits there. Look at how things are starting to tie together.
Yeah. So no, it's working. And like I said, once we're comfortable that this 75 zone, and we're pretty well there now, as I mentioned, we may drill another fence or so of holes in here. We may get it from the barge if we can get down far enough in the pond, or we may just do it with a surface drill. But yeah, so then what will happen is that this thing will either start to test this corridor in here, or like I mentioned, just keep moving the thing north, just keep moving the goalposts.
Got it, Tim. Great stuff, man. I'm a big fan of this project, as I can see the big smile on your face. You are too, because it's, you're chasing the big jewelry boxes of high grade, and it looks like you got a big mineralizing system there that can find those.
Yeah, well, again, 418. Hopefully, it's just the start of many more intersections, across that level and even deeper, clearly, and that's going to be our focus. Yep, right. Basically, this area here and down off the page. Just keep pounding away at it, and hopefully the system is there. It certainly is robust at that level, so I don't see it just ending. At least hope not. But anyway, you never know with geology. Faults can pop up when you least expect them or need them. But yeah, that was a really nice looking zone down there. And like I said, what it's going to grade out over 5-10 meters, time will tell. But obviously the presence of visible gold at this level is very, very encouraging.
It's really impressive to see how those big those areas are starting to hang together, and they're starting to give you directions of secondary faulting lately.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Yeah. I mean, like I said, we will, encounter structural wrinkles from time to time. This is an orogenic gold deposit, and orogenesis is just that. It's things coming together, getting mashed, and that sort of stuff. Well, maybe not just like that, but you know what I mean.
Well, that complexity is what you're looking for here.
It's not a single crack that a quartz vein just filled for 2 kilometers.
But you can see
like
things are lining up. Like, you're starting to be able to see how those cracks are starting to come together. That's exciting. I hope it's not lost on people how those zones are starting to come together and pointing in certain directions.
Well, once Ryan gets modeling and throwing in, obviously the 75 zone and the footwall splay in the model, we can't wait to share that with everybody. We obviously have to get that done first, and of course with 30, well, more than that, 40 odd holes outstanding, you can't make a model if you don't have any numbers. So it'll in a couple months, I'd say, when all of this stuff is back and we've got this all nailed down, we'll have a nice little show for people, I think, for people to look at and really get a nice breathtaking view of what it is we have here. Well,
you can definitely see the makings of what you're talking about, the breathtaking view. To me, I kind of look to trends to sort of see where things are pointing, and definitely pointing towards that breathtaking view.
Well, thank you for the kind words, and yeah, well, hopefully, we got a little rise in the price of gold today, so but the markets have been, as you know, terrible lately. I mean, we hit something like, I think, intraday the other day, 25 cents, which just it's depressing.
Super cheap.
And I know people sell for various reasons, and I'm thinking excuse me, gotta put you on hold. Yeah, I mean, the market is what it is, and I can't.
Yeah, but Tim, you're not the only one in that boat. And often when I see a lot of boats going in that direction, it's usually a sign that the direction is going to change. Gold looks like it's ready to go. I looked at the US dollar trend recently, and it looks like it's been topping out. And we've been having some problems with the gold price. It's because the US dollar has been gaining strength, but now it looks like the US dollar is rolling over. So I'm optimistic that, we're going to see more positive moves in the price of gold. and you picked a good day to put this news out. So I'm going to make sure and get this out there for everybody to see.
Well, thank you, Barry, for your support. And obviously, I enjoy our chats tremendously. And I hope that some of your followers learn from this today. And, if they have questions, they can email me. And I'll try my best to get to it as quickly as I can. I'm very open and hands-on like that. So it's
Well,
yeah.
I hope some people call you about this, what I'm looking at right now on the screen, because I'm seeing some pretty exciting stuff. And this is not based on arm waving. This is based on drill hole data and also your geophysical data. And I'm really liking where things are going, Tim. I better close it off here. You've been kind with your time.
Thank you, sir. Always a pleasure.
Okay, there you go, folks. To start with, Sokoman has a very reasonable, very cheap valuation, especially considering they've got the Moosehead project and now they've got a very exciting lithium project. These combinations are the way to go. At Moosehead, I think that they are in the making of an important discovery of an orogenic system, and their understanding of that system will help to their predictability of where to go along strike, testing these secondary structures and going deeper. And those kind of situations don't come along. Fosterville in Australia, when they mined it for 20 years, and then they found the Swan Zone, and that was a company maker for Kirkland Lake, which wasn't a small company when they made that Swan Zone discovery. Here you're starting out with an extremely small company that, Moosehead alone looks like it has the potential to be a company maker. So stay tuned. As always, my shows are for information purposes only. It's important for you to do your homework, speak with your financial advisors, reach out to Tim. He wants to talk to people because he's got a lot to talk about. You can see it in the geophysics, you can see it in the structural story, you can see it in the drill holes, and that's a tremendously exciting thing to talk about. So on that note, have a great day and we'll talk to you soon.